I'm impressed when I see people say that during the pandemic they've gotten, in touch with a different part of their being, and they've learned something about themselves and maybe others, and maybe it has to do with some of the other headlines of our current time. There's nothing wrong with that, but there's other people who, pandemic or no, are having a difficult time at this time, and what they're not able to do is, before they break out and learn to like a lot of other people and a lot of other things and get interested, they're having a hard time liking themselves right now, and that's kind of a human trait, but it isn't necessarily built in permanently to our psychology and DNA, as it were. The good doctor is going to join us and give us some more guidance on this, and I'm talking about Dr. John Braccio, Sr., drjohnb.com. That is the place for the podcast at Regional Psychological of East Lansing. Good morning, sir. Welcome.
Well, good morning to you, Dave, and just wanted to make a comment here as a prelude, so to speak. When we think of developing relationships, we tend not to think about developing the relationship with oneself. We tend to think about couples, friendships, families, working persons. But really, the most critical person for you to have a good relationship with is yourself. If you have this inner critic attacking you all the time, it can make for a pretty miserable life. So just suggestions that people need to do to really be able to look in the mirror and say, you're a good person. You're a person who tries to advance self and others in the world. In order to do that, there's certain things that can be helpful. You have to stop shaming yourself with senseless negativity.
Okay.
We have to realize that no one ever died complaining they were too happy or positive in life. This is a group you really want to join. You want to be stopping self-destructive, virtue signaling, and self-absorbed hatred of self that only destroys your life and pushes really positive and happy people away. You want to be open to opportunities you can build on. You want to be seeking out opportunities that you can develop. You want to dedicate periods of the day to just appreciate yourself, find good things in yourself, in spite of this fierce opposition that can come from the inner critic. You want to treat yourself to the kindness and acceptance you give to others, in spite of the human flaws, as all humans have. We also want to recognize human happiness is ultimately a choice, and you can only make it happen yourself. And then seeking purpose in your life through a religious or secular humanistic perspective. If someone does this, these things, they have a far better chance of having a good relationship with themselves. But so many people, certainly people I've known and worked with, have this inner critic that is always saying, no, you're not good, you don't know what you're doing, you're at this or that. So in order to have that good relationship with self, you need to turn that around, and you really need to be liking yourself, enjoying yourself, and finding good things in yourself and going from there. It's much harder than you might think for many, many people.
Tell me how you find the right place to switch off. Coach told me, trust your gut. You've got a gut feeling, and you'll know right from wrong. You've been taught correctly. You'll know right from wrong when it comes up in front of you. You'll know how to act. You'll listen to that voice, and it will tell you. How do you know when to listen to the voice in a proper way and when to tune it out and say, no, you're crimping my style right now? It's not always easy, is it?
No, it is not. It's very, very hard. And even the people with great self-esteem, they still have an inner critic that can be negative and say they're not doing well enough, they need to push themselves more, or they're a failure, or people who don't want to be with them. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just very important to be focusing on the good parts of yourself, trying to enhance them. And we can also look at things we need to change and work with. But the problem is too many people even get self-absorbed, and they think that they have some impact on the world. They think, that if I'm using too much energy, then I'm part of the global warming thing. Okay, there's nothing wrong with trying to do things that are reasonable, are cautious in life, but people can get so carried away they think they are a blight on the earth, on the universe, rather than looking at their life as that they can try to make the world better, make things more efficient, go from there. It's kind of a sad thing, Dave, and there's so many people. We can just look around us, and randomly, any 5, 6 people, you're going to find one of them has this, I'd say, way too much, but everyone has it to some degree. So you always have to take an inventory of yourself. Now, one of the good things you talked about of this pandemic, it's given a lot of people a lot of time to really think and examine themselves, examine your conscience, as we used to say in the old Catholic schools. But it's a time to do this. It can be a fruitful period if you use it as a time to enhance yourself, because ultimately the relationship you have with yourself has a big impact on the relationships that you have with other people. Because if you think poorly of yourself, unfortunately, a lot of other people will pick up on that, and the shamers, if you will, of the world are only going to use that in an enhancing way against you. So you want to have your guard up. You want to be positive. You want to be moving forward. Regardless of your skill sets, you want to be proud of them. You want to develop them, and you want to move forward and have a good, happy life as much as you can in difficult times.
You know, there's a flip side to what you just said a bit ago, too, when I noted when you were talking about, you don't want to go around thinking you personally are a blight on humanity, because if you feel that way, it really isn't much of a stretch to think that everyone else around you or a lot of other people are blights on humanity, too, and that's not a good way to go through the day, is it?
Well, you are right, Dave, and a lot of young people have picked this up with this climate change. I mean, I'm not minimizing climate change. I'm just saying,
No.
Be involved in building trees, okay, or planting trees, doing things that make the world better. Be judicious in life, but to all of a sudden see yourself and others as this blight. I even make the comment, let's assume a lot of this is true. While you're here, you want to try to make things better, because there are many people that actually believe in 20, 30 years everybody's going to be dead and gone. And I don't want to say that won't happen. I mean, I'm certainly not the scientist or knowing what's
They
going to
also
happen.
said the same thing 20 or 30 years ago, so I'm just noting for the record, but go ahead.
Well, that is true. My argument, though, is to go along with, I say, okay, if that's true, then what you want to do is make your own life good. You want to find your own spirituality, whether it's with God, whether it's with secular humanism, whatever it might be. But I do feel you have to find some peace, a philosophy that you can live by if you have 10, 20, 30 years, without even trying to argue, well, that's been said for thousands of years. There's no point in dealing with that. The main thing is that then you try to make yourself happy, satisfied as much as you can, and everybody you encounter, you want to try to have the same impact. So the goal is to make life better rather than finding negativity, looking for the article that's going to put you in a bad mood. And there are so many of these. You just put your browser on, all of a sudden you'll find something like Brazil is tearing down trees and pushing the native, call it what you will, people back. I'm not saying that's not going on. Or you can find more bad things in your browser. I always say when you're looking on the internet, or you think information comes to you, points that show up on your phone or wherever, look for positive ones. Don't look for negative ones, because negative ones seem to catch attention. Nobody said, like in the paper, the Lansing Journal that I did look at this morning, didn't say Grand River quietly, goes through Lansing, no problems, no issues. Well, that
meanders its way to the lake, right? I get it.
Well, how many people would be reading that? Now, if the Grand River is going into Grand Rapids, which it does every now and then, flooding and doing things, then that becomes that becomes the news. So I think what we need to inoculate ourselves in this pandemic period for a lot of negativity and try to find things that are positive. And part of this, of course, is working on ourselves, making ourselves more effective, making ourselves happier, and just really enhancing ourselves. Dave, there's so many people that have bad self-esteem and see themselves in a bad way, or if not completely certain aspects, and those are things that have to really be worked on. And if you do have bad traits, and you are selfish, and you're narcissistic, and you're this and you're that, okay, well, try to flush them out. Try to move those away. Try to be a better person. And that's what I think really makes life more useful, more helpful, and as long as the earth is here, because like I say, people believe it'll all be gone here in a while, and rather than argue with them, because you'll never convince them it isn't true, the thing to do is, okay, well, while you're here, what can you do to make the world better?
Exactly.
What can you do to enhance things? That's the role, that the one role you can have, and hopefully those people will be 80, 90 and chuckling and say, well, I guess I was wrong when I was 20, 25, when I thought the earth only had 10 more years in it. So that's kind of what I just consider good advice. You can't change some of people's views when they have them, and that's fine. Rather than change them, live within them and just say, hey, enjoy these 10, 20, 30 years that you have.
The good doctor says happiness is a choice. It starts with you and works out from there. The podcast will be residing very shortly at drjohnb.com. We always like to welcome in our good friend Dr. John Braccio here during trying times and not so trying times. And by the way, Doc, just going down and noticing that river makes it through to Grand Rapids and eventually the lake, not such a bad thing. You can find happiness in that moment too. And there are people who do, and I kind of recommend it. It's not so bad. May not be the news item of the day, but it's not so bad. It's great to have you on as always.
Always a pleasure, Dave. Have a good July 4th, my friend.
All right,
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Happy birthday to the United States of America. Indeed. We're back momentarily on the Morning Wake Up, 1320.